kidding. Just one shot?
They're not all zombies, Doug. How do you fight this thing?
Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Well, sometimes that is better. The person you put up there ain't the person that comes back.
It's a dance song to get down with. About 6 feet under. Get there.
Ooh, I love this song.
And now we come to the thrilling final episode of our radio drama.
Hello, and welcome to episode 238 of the Rotten Views podcast. Thank you, everyone, for showing up to another new episode. I appreciate it so much that you guys come back each and every single week. If you're a first-time listener, thank you very much as well for checking out the podcast. Hopefully you guys will stick around for a little bit. Check out the old episodes. We got over 200 different episodes, from horror movies, comedies, actions, and anything and everything in between, from good movies to really bad movies. It all depends on what you're looking for. We have a little bit of everything here for you guys to listen to. I'm a one-man show. That's all I am. I talk to myself and I talk about movies. So hopefully you guys will enjoy the fun ride. But before we do get into that too much, let's do a little bit of housekeeping like we like to do each and every single episode.
Housekeeping?
I think you're sleeping.
Housekeeping?
Come back in an hour.
Housekeeping, you want towel?
More towels. Need sleepy.
Housekeeping, you want mint for pillow?
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God.
So, for everyone, if you guys could, if you're on Spotify or whatever podcast platform you're on, feel free to leave a rating. If you're on Spotify, you get to leave a star rating. It's out of 5. Feel free to leave whatever kind of star you want. If it's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, doesn't really matter to me. Just leave whatever rating you want. That way it helps push the podcast, hopefully, higher up in the algorithm of all the other podcasts. Yeah, I appreciate it if it's a 5-star or something higher. If it's a 1-star, that's fine. I understand. I will try and find a voodoo kit off of Amazon and put a curse on you, but that's besides the point. If you get some back pains after a while, it's alright. I know most of my listeners are actually like mid-30s and up, so you probably already had back pains, but that's besides the point. But back to what we're getting at. If you're on Apple or iTunes, whatever the crap it is, feel free to leave a review. I don't like Apple. I really don't. And people have issues apparently finding the podcast on iTunes. So if you're one of those people, I am very sorry. There's also the web browser, so definitely go click the links down below. It pretty much breaks it down to pretty much any platform that the podcast is on, so hopefully you can find one equivalent to you that you can enjoy, and hopefully it works out for you. If not, just go to Spotify. Spotify seems pretty straightforward and easy to use, at least for me, so hopefully it's the same for you. Now, aside from leaving the reviews on the various podcast platforms, feel free to hit that share button on any of your podcast platforms. Hitting that share button does help out a lot. It gets the podcast out to more ears and more eyes, and that means a lot to me. The more people that check it out, the more listens that we get, the higher it gets up in the algorithm as well. And hopefully we meet more people that enjoy the content that we're making. But, if the podcast isn't for you, make sure to check out all my social media links down below. Because guess what? We do a lot of artwork. A ton of artwork. Maybe artwork isn't your thing. Maybe you're into gaming videos. We got those as well. So definitely click the social media links down below. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on TikTok. We're on Threads. We're on pretty much any and every social media account there is. Definitely, if you want to see all the artwork, go to the Facebook page and Instagram. If you want to see the gaming videos, definitely go check out the YouTube channel, where we post a weekly game video every single Wednesday. I have old episodes of the podcast up there as well. We have various short videos, as well as sometimes we do the occasional live stream on YouTube. But if you want to see more consistent live streams, definitely go check out the Twitch channel, because we've been streaming more consistently on Twitch as well. So definitely go check that out. We got a ton of content, and it's all free for you guys. So be proud, be happy, be excited, or just, just watch it for the sake of supporting me. I appreciate it nonetheless. Also, on the YouTube channel, once we do hit 1,000 subs, I'm going to be giving away some free artwork. So, if you could, definitely go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on the bell for notifications. That way you get notified every single time I post a new video, or we go live with a video game, or maybe some art streams. I do art streams over there as well. And maybe you'll be a lucky winner of some artwork once we hit 1,000 subs over there. I have a lot of coffee in me right now, so my brain is kind of going 1,000 miles a minute at this point in time. But, this podcast is being recorded weeks ahead of time. So by this time that you're listening to this podcast episode, the art piece I'm going to mention right now is already out. Well, the inks are out. I don't know if it's going to be fully colored. It might be colored. I'm not sure yet. But we just did a tribute to the passing of George Foreman. So definitely go check that out. You can find it on Instagram, Facebook, even on the YouTube channel. Go check it out there. It's going to be on the TikTok channel later tonight as well. But yeah, tons of artwork. We're going to be doing the daily lunchbox drawings. I was doing them all as a whole and just making a little reel or short video for them. But now what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch it up, kind of cash in on more views. We're going to post a single one each day. So Monday to Friday, there's going to be a new lunchbox drawing posted either the day of or the day before. So definitely go check that out. We got a ton of Lilo and Stitch drawings. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. I know my kid does, so that's all that matters. If you guys do too, I appreciate it. So now that we got all the housekeeping stuff out there, out in the open, let's talk about the movie at hand that you guys are here to listen to me talk about. We are talking about The Prey from 1983. There's a lot of movies with Prey as the title and in various years, so I'm not sure if they all go together, if there's like remakes or whatnot, or if they're all just, happen to be called The Prey or Prey. The one we're watching is from 1983 though. It's got 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb, 23% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 2.3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. This is a horror crime movie for an hour and 20 minutes, and it's free to watch on Tubi, or you can rent it on YouTube views for $1.99, or if you're like Apple TV, you can rent it for $5. I don't know why you would rent it. It's free on Tubi. It doesn't cost anything to create a Tubi account, so go watch it on Tubi. You got some ads here and there, but that's no big deal. Go watch it for free. Save yourself some money. Everyone could use some money saving skills and whatnot. So this is my my recommendation to save you a few cents. Go watch it for Tubi. Stop throwing your money away. Anyways, this movie also apparently 80% of Google users have enjoyed this movie, and apparently it had a budget of $150,000 and a box office of $49,000. Ooh. That's not that good. I haven't watched this movie yet, as the intro is being made right now, so I'm not knowing really what I'm getting into. I can't even speak English right. Oh my god, it's gonna be a long night. So properly, I have no idea what I'm getting into yet. I haven't watched the trailer. I don't even really know the description of the movie. I've seen 2 seconds of it on Tubi, and I'm like, yeah, let's watch it. So that's where we are now. This might be a really good decision, or it might be a really bad decision. That's how I live my life, and sometimes I pick movies for the sake of not knowing them at all, and because the cover looks shiny. That's pretty much about it. So let's get right into this podcast and into this movie at hand right now. This is also classified as a slasher horror movie, so I'm looking forward to that. I like slashers. The description as read on IMDb is 3 couples go on a camping trip in the woods of Southern California during the summer, where a deformed man is stalking their camp. Pretty straightforward and simple, so how bad could it be? We're at the section now of the podcast where we talk about the director, the writer, and a couple of the cast members. We get to do it a little bit easier this time because the director is also one of the writers for this, and that is Edwin Brown. So Edwin's other features, I guess you could say, on IMDb, none of them have pictures on the cover image, so I'm not really too sure what they are, and I got an idea what they are. One of them is from 1984, where he was the writer for Every Woman Has a Fantasy, assuming that's a porno. Another one is from 1982, where he was the writer for Irresistible, probably a porno as well. Another one is from 1983. He was the writer. 100% this is going to be a porno because it's called Naughty Girls Need Love Too. I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but it's okay. Assuming one of you dirty old bastards like, I know that movie well. It's got real good script. I'm sure it does, buddy. I'm sure it does. And also, the other writer credit for this one is named Summer Brown, which I'm assuming is his girlfriend, wife, fiance, spouse, something. Yeah, she was a producer for the 1984 feature Every Woman Has a Fancy, the producer for the 1983 movie Naughty Girls Need Love Too, as well as the producer for 1974 China Girl. I'm assuming porns. Let's just leave it at that. I am not doing a Google search of any of those movies, especially from that time period. We're not doing it. So let me know down in the comments below. If you have, I guess. I got nothing. So I'm only going to talk about 2 of the cast members of this because I'm assuming most of the cast members in this feature haven't really done much of anything else. So the first one we're going to talk about is Debbie Thurston, who's known as Nancy in the movie. She's best known for being Nancy, and she did one episode of a TV show called Billy, which has no picture, and it's from 1979. So that's cool. The other person we're going to talk about is a guy named Steve Bond, who's also playing the character named Joel in the movie. He's also best known for being in 212 episodes of General Hospital from 1983 to 1986. He was also Butch in the 1979 movie Gas Pump Girls, as well as Craig in the 1976 movie Massacre at Central High. I'm not really going into this movie of high hopes right now at this point in time, but I'm surprised. This movie has a tagline because 2 movies just weeks ago didn't have taglines, and they're probably better movies than this movie. But this movie has a tagline. It's not human, and it's got an axe. Cool. Slasher. Axe. Fun. Probably lots of boobs in this one. So, with that being said, we're going to get into the movie at hand right now. So, if you guys don't want to be spoiled on a movie that came out in 1983, feel free to pause this episode now. Go listen to it on Tubi, or go watch it on Tubi, I should say. Or just sit back, relax, and listen to me talk about the movie, and I'll either make you really want to see the movie, or you'll be, able to just skip it and not ever watch it, not put yourself through the torture and pain that I might be set for putting myself into. I got nothing else to say about this one, so sit back, relax, get some popcorn, get some snacks, get whatever you need, got a blankie maybe if it's cold out, I don't know, depending on what time you're listening to this episode of the podcast. If you're at work, hopefully this helps you get through the day, and if you're listening in the car, make sure to keep your eyes on the road at all times and just get to where you gotta go nice and safely. We don't want any accidents or anything stupid to happen. So with that being said, let's get started on the movie right at hand right now.
Presents Saturday Night at the Movies, the television series which each week brings you the finest in recent motion pictures. Tonight,
Man, am I ready for tonight. First you play it real cool, and then slip it right to her.
Did you hear something?
What the hell are you doing?
It's out there. I swear I saw it.
So we got the movie starting out as North Point Keen Wild, 1948. And all we see is it's nighttime and there's a giant ass fire happening. It's not a campfire, it's a forest fire. And we see this like helicopter shot of it flying around as everything's going up in flames. We hear people yelling and screaming. We hear trees falling over as they're creaking and cracking. I mean, to be honest with you, it's a very ominous first shot of the movie. And it looks like a really good practical design. I mean, it's probably campfire footage from an actual forest fire footage from an actual forest fire that they're just like taking probably stealing, but that's besides the point. And then we just cut and see a full moon as the intro credits start to roll in for the movie. I always like to comment on it. We still see this full moon, and it's just this basic, bold, like almost Times New Roman font that just says The Prey. But at least some decent music in the background, at least trying to like amp it up a little bit. And now we see it's now the same spot, Keen Wild, but it's now 1980, and we see this old couple or older couple sitting at a campfire at nighttime, you know, just having some coffee, eating some snacks, dinner most likely. But then we see something moving through the woods coming towards them. We just had this awkward shot of like the couple staring at each other as they're eating and like smacking their lips, and then whatever's coming through the woods is getting closer, and then it sees the fire, and then the fire starts like freaking it out a little bit because it's having like flashbacks to the other fire that happened years ago. But now the music is like a heartbeat, and it starts beating faster and faster the closer and closer it gets to the camp. So the wife gets up and she's got like the leftover foods, and she's walking through the woods to probably go dump it somewhere for the animals. And then she hears a sound and she's like, we're out here in the middle of the woods. Somebody there? And then we cut back to the husband who's just standing at the campsite with his axe. He's just like, you know what? I'm just gonna randomly start sharpening this now in case somebody needs to kill me with it later. And then we just see the back headshot of this lady walking through the woods for a good couple minutes here by the feels of it. And then we just keep cutting from her head to the guy cutting some wood to the killer in the woods, and now it sounds like a galloping horse because of how fast the heartbeat music's going. And now there's so many insects and grasshoppers just chirping that's all you can hear. And out of nowhere you just hear some screaming coming back from the camp, and I believe she said Frank was his name. Yeah, Frank's dead. Frank just got murdered at the camp. So she runs back to go check on Frank, and we see a decapitated Frank, and then we just see a bloody axe, her face staring up at what we assume is the killer screaming. And then it just cuts to a bee, you know, flying around the flower, and it's daytime. And then we see a millipede or a centipede, and it's a very fucking close-up shot of this thing. So if you don't like seeing little millipedes or whatever there, you're probably gonna get spooked in the first couple minutes of this movie. It doesn't bother me any. I'm actually amazed by the quality of the shots at this point in time for the year of the movie. But you know, I guess that's where they spent all their money on. Then we just cut and randomly were watching a trash panda working through a little creek area, and then there's a falcon flying overhead. It's like, well, who's gonna win? Is it gonna be the trash panda or is it gonna be the falcon? My money's probably on the falcon. And then we see this Mr. T wannabe looking van. It's not the same paint color at all, but it's a big ass van. And we see it driving down the road as everyone inside the van is singing some song, and I have no idea what the goddamn song is. I think they're saying something about rolling her leg over on the man on the moon. I don't know at all, but I don't care either, to be honest with you. And then we hear some heavy breathing as something's walking to a tree that's like knocked over in the woods and a big ass rock. But then it just cuts to a campsite area. There's really no need for that previous shot because the person that's walking towards the knocked over tree does not have view of the people in the van at all. So what's the setup for that? Other than that might be his little home, I guess, beside the rock. Anyways, the van gets to where they're going, and they get out, and they're unloading the van of all the camping gear, and a lady runs right to the porta potty, and I thought it was kind of funny. On the side it says Hardee's Canned Relief, because that's apparently the slogan for the porta potty company. And then we see this park ranger driving down the hill in his Chevy Trailblazer, and it's a classic style Trailblazer. And back in the day when they used to have the white rims, I know my dad used to have a bunch of trucks with white rims on it, so that brought back some memories. And then he goes to meet the kids that just show up, and they call him officer. He's like, what do I look like, a cop? And one of them's like, nah, I just like the uniform actually. So we're meeting Mark, he's the park ranger, and then we're meeting all the other girls. There's Gail, Nancy, and Bobby maybe. I'm not probably going to remember these ladies' names at all because they kind of all look ditzy and kind of look the same. And Mark's like, so you ladies camping here by yourselves by chance, huh? And they're like, no, our boyfriends are just off there, you know, using the porta potty and stuff. You know, they'll be back in a few minutes. And then he's like, well, you guys enjoy yourself, right? But you make sure to watch out for the bears. And then one of the ladies like, bear? Yeah, you're in the woods, bitch. What do you expect? And then randomly they just show a black bear walking through the woods like it's no big deal. And then they show a woodpecker. And then they show what looks to be a rattlesnake. I'd rather take my chances with the bear, I think, than the rattlesnake. Because at least I can see the bear coming at me. And I feel like I have a fighting chance because I'm big like a bear as well. And I feel like the rattlesnake's just going to bite me and I'm going to be screwed in the middle of the woods. Park ranger never said anything about worrying about the goddamn rattlesnakes, though. Then we just see endless shots of them walking through the woods, trying to get to a spot to camp. And it just just cuts to 3 guys, and the one guy's like, well, man, I can't wait for tonight, because you know what's going to happen. I'm going to get laid. And then randomly we just see the monster's hands as he's setting up like a rope trap by the looks of it in the woods somewhere. And then we see that everyone's sitting around at the logs. It looks like they might have like a camp area set up. And then randomly we see a tree bending backwards, so maybe it's part of the trap. I don't know. Really don't know. And the next thing you know, we just see everyone walking again, even though they were just sitting down 2 seconds ago. Guess they're taking a little pit stop, maybe? Also looking at like the people in the movie, the killer is just called the Monster. I guess it works. Can just call him Slasher, the Axe Killer, something more creative than the Monster. And then we see the monster moving through the woods a bit, breathing heavily. And then they're stopped at this other resting spot. And this one lady's like, oh, my feet are killing me. I have blisters on my blister. And then another guy shows up. He's like, all right, let's get moving again. I want to make camp before it gets dark out. Okay, guys, let's go. I think it might be Gail that's complaining about her blisters, because it's also Gail that's like, oh, look at me, I'm looking in the mirror, my hair's such a mess. And one of the guys is like, come on, Gail, you're not going to prom, let's go, we gotta hike through the woods. He's like, oh, just go ahead and help me, I'll catch up. Yeah, I bet you will catch up. And then we just see the monster watching Gail from the woods, and she can somehow hear him because she's looking around all spooked, even though he's just hiding behind a tree branch. He's kind of moving a little bit, but he's not really making sounds by any means. And then she's just running, carrying her, like dragging her book bag on the back, like on the ground. Be like, guys, just wait, I don't want to be left alone out here, please wait, guys, where'd you go? I'm pretty sure she was complaining about how heavy her book bag was, but now she's running with it on like one arm, like dragging it on the ground, like it's no big deal at all. And she's trying to find the group, but then she gets spooked by some birds and just starts screaming. And it's like, well, your friends aren't really taking a pathway, but it looks of it just looks like they're walking through the trees. So how are you hoping to find them by just running and hoping for the best at this point in time? And then we see the guys at the camp area, I guess, and they're cutting down some woods. And then one of the guys like, hey, look, somebody lost their pipe. And then Gail comes in. She's like, you bastards, why didn't you guys wait for me? I could have been killed or raped. And one guy's like, what, raped by a chipmunk, Gail? What are you worried about? Gail's trying to warn them that something was following her in the woods and that it followed her all the way to where they are. And they're just like, sure, Gail, you just got lost in the woods and got a little bit spooked. Don't worry about it, Gail. There's nobody else out here other than us, alright? And then we just see this panning shot of the woods and we hear what might be the monster groaning in pain or making a mating call. I'm not really too sure what he's doing. It's now nighttime and everyone's sitting around the campfire, but everyone's having like their own conversation. So like it'll pan in on 2 of the couples and they'll be talking, but then you hear mumbling happening in the background, and then it'll pan in on another 2 couples, and then you see more mumbling in the background. It's like, can't you guys just like focus your audio on one goddamn thing so we don't hear like the Charlie Brown wah, 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 happening in the background of this whole goddamn conversation? And one guy's like, oh, you're not kidding, huh? Oh, really, huh? Yeah. It's like, what's the point of this? This movie uses a ton of like animal and insect footage as filler to fill in at every point in time, because we got a point where we're sitting down at this campfire, we're getting ready to eat, and we see them passing out the plates. But between passing out the plates, we then see random animals, like a tarantula walking through the woods at some point in time, then an owl swoops down in to kill something and starts eating it, and then we'll pass another plate, and then we'll pass back, and now we look at a snake just making his way through, and then we see some fire ants or termites or something making their way through, and it's like, what's the point of all this? I mean, it's to build the atmosphere of them being in the woods, yes, but at the same time, it's not needed every goddamn 10 seconds. And then we see Joel, because we know it's Joel, because the lady's just like, Joel knows how to catch a fish, but I know how to cook it. And Joel's pointing up at the stars being like, that's Orion. She's like, how do you know that's Orion? He's like, I used to own a convertible, that's how I know. Then they're just sitting around the campfire. Joel starts to say a scary story based on someone in England. And then we see everyone passing around the pipe, which I'm pretty sure was the pipe from the old guy that got his head cut off at the beginning of the movie, because once it got to this camp area, they're like, hey, look, somebody lost their pipe. Let's just smoke it, I guess. The whole time they're hearing about this scary story around the campfire, we keep cutting into the woods, where we see the monsters watching them from a distance as the heartbeat sound gets louder and louder. The story's over, and now one lady's like, all right, I gotta go take a pee. Who wants to go take a walk in the woods with me? So she goes off by herself, and then the two guys go for pee as well, and they're both peeing on the same tree, and then the one guy's like, hey, jerk, wash my leg. It's right there. So you guys can, like, pee a little bit farther apart. You don't need to be standing, like, right beside each other. And then we see the one guy, he's trying to blow up the little bed for them to sleep on, and I guess Gail is his girlfriend, the ditzy one, and Dale's got this little portable radio, and she's blasting music, and he's like, hey, come on, Gail. Turn it off. Let's listen to the sound of the woods. And then after the lady's done peeing in the woods, the two guys jump out. Well, the one guy jumps out and like scares her. And then Joel walks out too, and they're looking at her. And now she's fainted, passed out, completely on the ground. And he's like, whoa, yeah, guess it really did scare her, huh? And then we just cut randomly to Park Ranger Mark, who's sitting on a chair playing a banjo. For whatever reason, we don't know. It's just there for filler, I guess. Guess I really want somebody to play a banjo while everyone else is stuck in the woods. Really build up that hillbilly tension killer kind of vibe, I guess. Because, you know, that's all that happens. He plays the banjo for a bit, takes a sip of some beer, and then we cut back over to the people laying around the campfire. I think Greg is the guy that's seeing Gail, and he keeps trying to fill her up, and she's like, are you sure? Do you love me? Are you sure? Do you promise to cross your heart and hope to die and all this other fun stuff? You can't touch my boobs if you don't promise. Are you sure? Are you positive? 100% sure. Are you sure? And she dits. And then Bobby's the girl that fainted because her boyfriend scared the shit out of her, and she's like, guess what? I ain't putting out, and just watch, I'm gonna go to bed now, so sucks to be you. And of course, we just had the monster in the woods again, still just watching everyone from afar as they're all making out, except for Bobby and her boyfriend, because the boyfriend's cut off. It looks like Bobby's asleep, but the boyfriend's like, alright, come on, Bobby, this is your last chance. Don't make me upset. I want to get some tonight too, because everyone else is getting it. And then the monster are watching Greg and Gail, and then Gail freaks out. She's like, Greg, we gotta stop, there's somebody watching us from the woods. And he's like, oh, come on, don't give me that shit, there's nobody out there in the woods. And then we hear some branches breaking a little bit, and he's like, it's just an animal. And then Gail's like, no, there's no animal, there's definitely somebody out there. So he grabs the lantern and decides to walk through the woods by himself to see what's out there. Then we just have Gail in the sleeping bag naked, being like, Greg, can you come back? I'm getting scared. Greg, please come back. And then Gail starts to freak out as she starts to like crawl backwards, and we see from the point of view of the killer looking at her, and then it starts to change into fire, and then we see him taking the sleeping bag and smothering Gail. And then it cuts back to Greg walking through the woods, and it keeps cutting back to Gail, and we just see her from like the top down. She's squirming, she's got underwear on, a t-shirt on, but the camera's like point kind of in the lower half area, and just keeps watching her legs squirm. And then randomly we see a shot of the camper guy, Mark O'Brien, the forest ranger guy, and he's just sitting there still sipping on his beer. Like, what's the point of that? It makes no sense, but whatever, we'll go with it. And then Greg's lantern goes out, and he's like, goddamn son of a bitch, I don't want to be out in the dark. And then as Greg is playing around trying to get the matches out and lighting a match, as soon as he lights a match, the monster comes up behind him and just slices his throat right open with his hand, because he's got like this mutated hand which cuts his throat wide open. And we just hear the music pick up, we see blood going all over the place, and there's an owl watching the whole time. And then the owl's like, you know what, screw this, I'm out here, and flies away. Forest Ranger Mark is talking about a story about a wide mother frog, and it's wondering what to feed its babies. So it's going around the woods talking to the other animals, wondering what the other animals feed their babies. And his face is trying to imitate the way the face of another animal look. So he's trying to make his face look wide when he's talking about the frog. He's trying to scrunch up his nose when he's talking about the rabbit. This whole time he's feeding a baby deer, and I have no idea what the point of this part of the movie is at all, because it just seems like even more filler. And he's telling the story to a baby deer, and I thought he was telling it to some kids that were there maybe on a school trip or something. And then he's like, baby deer, hey, you stay on the flower bed, don't be eating my flowers, my veggies and all that crap, okay? I just fed you some stuff, don't mess with my stuff. And then he walks away. Then one of the guys is going over to Joel. He's like, hey, did Greg and what's her face talk to you about leaving it all early? Because all their stuff is gone. They're gone, their gear's gone, everything's gone. He's like, go take a look for yourself. It's all gone, just disappeared, just vanished out of nowhere. Then we have police calling the other park ranger, Ranger Tile, and they want to do a missing persons report for the people that got murdered at the beginning of the movie, because apparently they were up in the woods somewhere, and they're both teachers, and they didn't come back to teach class on Monday. So they want the ranger, Tile, and O'Brien to go search the area to see if they can find the teachers at all, which they won't because they're dead. Then after Park Ranger Tile gets off the phone with the police officer, he's looking at the paperwork that he just wrote down, and then he starts rubbing his head, and we start focusing on him. It looks like he's thinking really hard, being like, maybe there is a weird killer out in my woods and I've just been ignoring it the whole time. Maybe I've gotten myself into some deep crap right now. And then we cut back to the guys all yelling, screaming, trying to find Greg and Gail, as we then cut to various shots of animals working their way through the woods, and they're just still yelling for Greg and Gail, but there's no answer. I think we see Bobby, and she's like, hey, you guys have any luck finding them? He's like, nope, God knows where they are. And then we just see Gail in this like fishing net being dragged through the woods, dead of course, and we just watched her just getting dragged through the woods for like a good 20 seconds for filler, I guess. And Skip's like, my guess is they just headed back to the van and get out of here, because, you know, they didn't want to stay out here, and Gail doesn't like to be out in the woods, so Greg would have just followed her. So they're probably out there waiting for us to get back. So then they take a majority vote at the camp, and they're like, hey, you know what? Let's just go on with our camp. Let's go on with our vacation, and we'll catch up with them later at some point in time, probably. So they make up a sign and a note, and they nail it to a tree, just in case Greg and Gail do happen to come back around the campsite if they're looking for them. And then they all pack up their stuff and just start making their way farther into the woods. And as they're walking in, Nancy, the main lady, who's also a Joel, looks back at the sign being like, please let them be okay, please don't let them be dead. And then O'Brien comes in. He's like, hey Lester, how's it going? He's like, well, you know, we got some issues. It looks like we got another missing couple up in that point area of the woods, and you know, it's the second one. I wonder what's going on up there. And then Mark O'Brien, he's just eating a sandwich, being like, probably just decided to stay out a little longer, probably just out in the woods. I'm sure everything's fine. We're forest rangers, we probably shouldn't be too worried about it. Then the two of them start sharing a cucumber cream cheese oatmeal bread sandwich, whatever the hell that is. And the Lester's like, you know, there's one thing about that North Point that place really is spooky. And then he starts narrating as we see the group walking through the woods, and he starts discussing about that forest fire that happened, and it was the worst forest fire in history, and there's a bunch of gypsies that used to live up in that area in the caves while the fire happened. And apparently while they're going through the caves trying to get some of the bodies out, there's a bunch of gypsies. I think that he said there's 5 gypsies. They were burnt so badly that they were all burnt together. And then he's like, you know, after the fires were stopped, we got sent back in to start, you know, replanting and try to, you know, build the land back up. And you know, I've never told anyone this before, but we saw something take off into the brush, and you know, the only thing I can describe it as is like a young man just, you know, off in the woods by himself. And Mark's like, so if you like, I'll pack up my stuff, I'll head up to North Point, check it out, make sure everything's okay. And Lester's like, maybe if you get lucky you can hang out with those kids from California. And I saw you talking to those ladies. Some of those are pretty lookers, huh? Maybe you get some lucky action. Apparently it takes Mark no time to get up to North Point, because he's already walking through the woods, got a gun on his shoulder, just, you know, hopping over, you know, dead, falling over trees, just, you know, trying to catch up to where the kids might be, even though he has no idea where they would be, because they're not really leaving a trail behind, other than probably, you know, the occasional broken branch here and there. But as Mark's walking through the woods, then the music starts to pick up, and the heartbeat starts to pick up, because that killer is slowly falling behind him. And then we see the group of, you know, survivors so far. They're at this, like, waterfall area, and I think it's Joel who's like sliding into the water, and he's got like jean short shorts on for whatever fucking reason. Now as all of them are playing in the water, we then see Mark making it to the point where they were camped out for the first night or the second night, wherever. It might have been the second night, because he looks at the sign that they left on the tree saying, "Dear dummies, we're going this way," and he's already caught up that much to them in like a matter of like an hour, 2 maybe, I guess. So then Mark huddles down, gets out his trusty paper map and his compass to try and figure out the exact direction that the group of people went. And he's like looking around, and we hear crows flying around and buzzing all around. And then we just see him looking up at the mountains being like, yeah, I think they're probably going in that general direction. And then for whatever reason, Joel and Skip are now fully dressed, and they now have like rope climbing gear, and they're going to go exploring. And the girls are like, don't hurt yourself, guys. They say, we won't, we'll be fine, don't Don't worry about us. As Mark is making his way through the woods, because apparently the other guys didn't notice this at all, we see, as clear as day, he's looking down at the ground. And we can see a path where we can tell Gale was, in that net and just being dragged through the woods because all the grass, there's a straight pathway of dirt going off into one direction in the woods. Clear as day. Then as the guys are going off to go do some rock climbing, the girls are sitting on the rock just, getting their tan on. And then one of the girls is like, did you hear that over there? It sounds like there's something over there. And then the one's like, nah, you're just being a chicken. Don't worry about it. And then the guys finally get done on their walk, and they finally get to the edge of this cliffside where they're going to go off. And they're like, wow, yeah, that first stab is a mother. And then I think it's Joel that lets out this like a yell of excitement on the top of the cliff. And actually Mark is able to hear, of course things echo through the woods, but he must not be that far away if you can hear the echo or the yell from Joel as clear as day. And then Mark's making his way down this pathway, and then we see some fabric stuck on a branch of a tree. And he's like, that's probably not good. So we see Joel's the first lucky contestant to use the rope to go down the mountain. And then we just cut to some like vultures that are eating what looks to be supposed to be flesh, but it just looks like ham, to be honest with you, sliced ham. And we just keep cutting back to those vultures, just, gnawing away at that one piece. And then we see Joel on like the top of this cliff getting ready to descend down the side of it. Mark's making his way through the woods, and that's when he comes upon the vultures that are eating at this stuff that's underneath his twigs, and we hear a ton of flies. And then we just pan over at Mark's face, and he's looking very disgusted, being like, oh, I don't know if I should go check to see what's underneath those branches. Then, of course, we cut to Skip, who's watching Joel descend down the cliff. And, of course, the killer, the monster, is coming from behind him. Mark, of course, scares the vultures off, goes over to where they were feasting, starts moving some twigs apart, and, of course, we see dead Gale and Greg there. And he's like, ooh, geez, oh, I wasn't expecting to find this today. Then the music starts picking up more, and we keep panning to Mark's face, then to the vultures, then to Gale's dead face. But at one point in time, we see Gale's throat actually move, and we see her eye almost blink a little bit. So she dead, but she's not really good at acting like she's dead. Then, like, the next time we cut back to Gale's face, her eyes are closed even more. Good job on the acting on this one. It's A plus. Then we just cut to Joel making his way farther and farther down the side of the mountain, as we then see Skip, and we see the monster man getting closer and closer behind him, because the music starts getting louder and louder. The next thing you know, we see this monster, and this guy's like giant. He just literally wraps his hands around Skip, picks him up like 2 feet off the ground, and just crushes his skull, I guess. And then we see Joel yelling up at Skip, being like, hey, what the hell are you doing up there? Because Skip keeps, smashing up against the side of the rocks, but it's the monster man who's playing around with the ropes. And Joel's looking up, he's like, oh shit, I gotta get farther down this mountain because I can see the monster man. He's got a knife out now. And the rope just gets cut, and we hear the scream of Joel falling to the ground below, and everyone hears it. We see the girls sitting up because they hear it. We hear Mark looking up in the sky because he hears it. And then we just cut back to that cliffside where we see the rope still falling down. Then we have the intense music starting to pick up. We have Mark running through the woods with his shotgun in hand or his rifle in hand. We have the girls now fully dressed as they're just running through the woods as well, not knowing where the hell they're going. They run up to the top of the hill at that cleft point where Skip and Joel were, and they see a dead Skip laying on the ground with his head twisted all the way around his body. And there's no getting up from that one. Nancy actually goes over to like chat Skip. I'm not sure if she's like checking to see if he's still alive, but like his head's face one way, but he's like his body's like face down the ground, and his head is completely twisted around, be like, no, there's no possible way, Nancy, that he's even remotely alive. And then she looks down and sees that the other rope is cut, and she's just like, oh great, my boyfriend is dead. And then we hear a groaning, growling sound, and now Bobby is going to be dead as well, because the monster man is going right towards her. But then we see Nancy's actually backing up to where Bobby is, because they're staring at the monster man. We can't see him, but we can just sense that he's in front of them. Then we have the girls running through the woods, screaming for their life, and we hear Mark coming through the woods as well. He can hear them, so he starts heading in their direction. Then for some reason, we get the first ever slow-mo shot in the movie of them running through the woods at this random spot where they're coming to what looks to be an opening as the music starts to pick up, and they're stopped, and they're just trying to grab their composure and grab a breath, but it's still in slow motion. Then as the girls are running through the woods, we find finally see that rope trap coming into play. Bobby steps in the rope trap and actually trips, and we just see this tree swinging up, and her body just smacks this giant tree, and she's instantly dead because like her face, the top of her skull, is completely gone as she's hanging from this tree. And we just see Nancy looking up at her, screaming, and then we hear footsteps coming closer to her, and of course it's the monster. Then we see this monster slowly walking closer to her, and Mark shoots it, but Mark only has tranks in his gun and not actual bullets, so he tranks the thing, he darts it, and he's looking at his watch being like, alright, how much time do I got killed before he goes down? And then the monster pulls the trank out. Mark goes running at the monster and does like a spear but to his knees to take him down to the ground, and then he picks up this dead piece of wood and just starts smashing the monster with it, and then the wood breaks over the monster's like back and his head, and we just see a slow-mo shot of the monster falling to the ground. And then Mark's like, everything's fine now. I'm going to go check on Nancy. And as he's checking on Nancy, the monster's up again, and he starts choking him from behind. And then we just see the shot of this monster standing up, holding Mark by the back of his throat, choking him. It's just this fake blood is just spewing all over the place. Nancy's just screaming her head off. And then the monster gets closer to her and crouches down and look at her, and we see a little bit of close-up of the face of the monster. And I guess he's supposed to be like a burn victim. It doesn't look like a burn victim, but we're going to just assume that's what it's supposed to be. And then we cut to the woods, and now it's a freaking snowstorm. So there's a snowstorm going through, and then the next shot, we hear some birds chirping, and we see a bunch of plants and greenery and shrubbery, and I'm assuming we just went through all winter like it was nothing. And then the camera pans across this open grassway, and then we're looking up at a mountain, and then we go through the clouds, and we get closer to the mountain, and we see this giant cave opening. And once we get closer and closer to the cave opening, we hear a baby crying and laughing in the side of the cave, and we can just assume that the monster took Nancy into that cave to make her his baby mama. And I don't know if that's supposed to be setting up another movie in this series or not, but it is what it is. And then the outro credits start to roll, and that's our movie. And I gotta say, I didn't care for this one. 100% didn't care for this one. There is a couple pluses, I will say that. There's a lot of good animal shots in the movie, so they had really good animal handling and whatnot. It's in there so much and just so quickly, and just in between scenes, it just makes really no sense for it whatsoever. Like, I get building the depth that the forest is alive, of course, but like, you don't need to cut to an animal, then cut to someone having a plate of food, then cut to another animal, then cut to somebody being past their plate of food, and doing that over and over again for like 3 minutes. There's no point. And what's the other good thing? I had another good point that I like. I like the pacing of the kills. We get that first kill at the beginning of the movie pretty quickly. I think it's like 17 minutes in, and then there's a little bit of gap to build up the story of them going into the woods, and then once the second kill happens, and then the third kill happens shortly after, and the pacing is very well done in that aspect. But the creature design sucks, to be honest with you. There's not much of a sculpture there at all. I guess it's supposed to be a burn victim, but they could have did more. They did do the hand sculpture, so that's good, because for the most part we see the monster's hands and we don't see his face till then. So at least they did take the time to actually sculpt out hands for the monster. I'm glad they did that. But on the rotten scale of 10, for me, this one is getting a 2.5 because I didn't care for it, to be honest with you. Nothing really dropped me in. But at least the pacing was good, and they had good animal footage, I guess, for a horror movie.
So, that being that, it is now time to pick what we're going to be watching next week. So, of course, we're going to stay on TV just because, I enjoy the app a lot. I'm just going to keep saying that, keep repeating it, and hopefully they'll sponsor me someday. I doubt it, but that's besides the point. So, for this one, we're going with a comedy movie this time around, and it's starring Joe Pesci, and I love Joe Pesci and pretty much anything that he does. This one is from 1991 for an hour and 26 minutes. It's The Super. It's pretty much him being a superintendent of this, ghetto rundown building, and it's not really held up to the standards of a healthy living area. So he's either forced to make the building better or live in it. Well, he's forced actually to live in it and to deal with the other people deal with. But then by the end of his sentence, he's also supposed to have the building up to standards. So we'll see if that happens or not. So that's going to be a fun one. I've seen it before. I enjoy it. It's not first time watch for me. I did watch it earlier in the year for the first time, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm like, I want to do this one for the podcast because I think it's going to be a fun one, and I think I deserve a fun one after the thing I just watched. I didn't care for that one at all, to be honest with you. But with that being said, make sure to check out the outro band, just like every single week. It's a trial-based horror band, Blood Opera. You can find all the links down below, but the main thing you can check them out on is Spotify. Definitely go follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and all that fun stuff. Share the music, like some of their stuff, save it to a playlist, all that other cool jazz. And as always, check out all my links down below at Typhon Sign. You can find us on all major social media platforms. We're on X, we're on Threads, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Definitely go check out the YouTube channel. We got the weekly game video dropping every single Wednesday. Old episodes of the podcast. We have various shorts as well as live streams occasionally over there. If you want more live streams though, make sure to check out the Twitch channel, because we've been doing a live stream over there almost every single night for a couple hours here and there. So definitely go check that out. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys all later. Peace.